There is definitely some mystery on the undead side of Aeternum. We've looked at the corrupted and the ancients under a microscope, and even talked about the withered in relation to the corrupted, and how they're starting to bend to their will. But with these families clashing against each other, there's another one entirely that stands apart. One that I believe are acting of their own free will, to a degree, and might be the closest thing to humans we have on Aeternum. The Undead Pirates, and the woman behind them, the Siren Queen. First thing I want to do is talk about the difference between the undead and the withered that we've seen so far. These withered seem to act feral, without any thought process or reasoning behind their actions. Aside from a few examples, they seem to be the most mindless species on the island, which might also explain how in said examples, the corrupted were able to bend them to do their bidding so easily. In a quest known as Ruinous Labor, our job is to find out why the corrupted are now becoming more organized. Instead of just mining the same ore over and over, they're starting to refine it and transport it to other areas. And in this quest we get the conclusion that they are bending the undead. But the withered is the one that we encounter during this quest, not the pirates. So my question is, what exactly separates us becoming an undead pirate when we die as opposed to a withered? Previously they described the qualifications of becoming withered or drowned is to experience a horrible death. We found that because of the regeneration of the island, we are able to resurrect multiple times, but it's safe to theorize that eventually, your soul will run out and you will become a lost. But I have never found out what makes somebody become undead, at least until her. Now before we talk about Reekwater, it's important to know that we do have other undead scattered throughout the island of Aeternum. They have their own weapons and fighting styles and people who lead them. Not only that, but there's stories of their interactions with the rest of the island. The ones I find most curious are the ones that talk about how they live in death, much as they did in life. They still plunder and raid, and even though it's confirmed through multiple accounts that they do not eat, they seem to go to great lengths of targeting specific supplies like alcohol and spices. Some theorize that they do this because of memory of their past life of piracy and of the ocean. Reekwater, however, seems to be the central hub of these undead marauders. I found it strange during the Reekwater Preview event how pretty much for the majority of the map, we'd find animals, angry earth, the ancient guardians, and especially pirates, but very little or none at all in terms of the withered, like the retchers, gravediggers, that sort of thing. And I noticed how the home base of the Siren Queen seemed to have no withered at all, but was full of undead pirates. It made me think that whatever lived here maybe didn't want those withered in the area. If they were aware how easily they were bended by the corrupted, I wouldn't find it surprising that they would try to keep them out. But then I started reading through their quest lines and lore pages that a lot of us skipped over. I dug through everything that came from that event and that I could get my hands on, and I found some very interesting information. To start with, we never saw the Siren Queen during this Reekwater event. We saw the statue that was made of her, and we saw the mini bosses that were located within her base, but never her. There was an open platform that I saw was strangely empty though, and it made me think that in the future, we might actually see and fight her there. But the other option is the arena I was able to discover during my time there. When I made the video, I talked about how I wouldn't be surprised if there was a different boss in there entirely. But either way it goes, I think we'll definitely be seeing the Siren Queen in the future. But I don't think Isabella is going to be very happy about her and what she's been doing. Now we don't know much about her or what she was like before, but the first quest I looked at was named Gunner Sanders. In the dialogue, the NPC is terrified. He mistakes us for being one of the Siren Queen's crew, and talks about how she's gone crazy. She's obsessed, and right now all she cares about is getting her soul back. See, her and her crew had a mission when they first arrived. They had a goal. They came here to carve out a new land where they could all be equal, where the only thing stopping them was themselves, instead of some old families that laid claim to everything at the point of a sword. But when the queen realized they couldn't leave, that's when it became hard. But then, apparently something happened after that caused her to lose her soul. Then she started calling herself queen. The crew was turned into the undead, and somehow she was able to start controlling them. This continues over the next couple of quest lines, with one very interesting take from a page called Missing Spark. This comes from a pirate journal located in Maria's Rest. It talks of a conversation with the crewmate known as Jeremiah. Members of the crew were taken up to the top of the spire. That's the home base of the Siren Queen, by the way. The spire of Melpomene. But he says when they go up, they come back different. Said it looked like the light had died in them somehow. They'd still work, but didn't talk to anyone. Didn't drink or gamble, as if a giant piece of them had been taken away. The next few pages talk more about this, like how Jeremiah met the same fate, and also that she's been repeatedly taking up members of the crew to reshape them into something else, something way more obedient. So what we can deduce from this is that the Siren Queen has somehow transformed into something that can command these undead pirates, and whatever happened to her, she's desperately trying to reverse it. even taking steps like making them scour the ancient ruins in the surrounding area and collect all the artifacts they can find. One journal page known as Gaining Perspective even theorizes that she knows how to use them, something that would mirror the behavior of someone like Isabella, but this is on a completely different side of the spectrum. I grew extremely curious after this. I dug back through my footage of it and any notes that I took. I found a name of an ancient ruin that the Siren Queen seemed to take a lot of interest in. It's mentioned over the course of a few pages as being a lighthouse that was surrounded by other structures and acted as a major port for the ancients themselves, the real ancients. The name of it was Silio Secco. I typed out the page information I was given and also found, but here was by far the most interesting entry that I've seen in this entire region, codenamed Misery and Temptation, written by Johansson. We uncovered a device today, and writings nearby. This is both terrible and exciting. If my translation is correct, the ancients had control over power far beyond what we could have ever imagined, the soul itself. This device supposedly had the ability to shape and manipulate the soul, even stealing it from the living. What would happen to a person if their soul was ripped away, leaving only the savage body behind? We have seen those mindless, shambling creatures around the island. Perhaps this explains their plight. It continues on by saying, I do not believe this device was intended as a weapon, however deadly it may be. There are gaps in the tablets we found, but I think this device could have been used as a restorative of some kind, wrapping the soul in Azoth to heal or to grant power. It's also stated in one of these pages that the ancients had their very own language, and that the Siren Queen has had activity in this area, along with her crew being ordered to haul all the ancient artifacts away. Now this opens up a lot of questions, especially how the ancient guardians came to be. This makes me wonder if this device, or something like it, is what they used to create them. Despite them theorizing that it might have been used to restore, who can say that someone didn't find a way to weaponize it? Maybe there's a duplicate version of it in the Spire, that the Siren Queen uses to bend the crew to her will. And also that definitely explains the Withered. Strip a soul away from someone on Aeternum but don't give it back, and I'm pretty sure that's what we'd end up with. But why is it that the undead seem to express more free will and even organization than they do? Is it just the fact that they died as pirates, or is there something more going on there? Perhaps instead of wrapping the soul in Azoth, the Siren Queen has found a way to twist it, to modify or reverse engineer it. There's definitely more questions there. But what does seem to be likely is that she wants her soul back, and this device just so happens to be one that she could potentially use to accomplish that. And my thinking is, maybe she wants to because she knows eventually someone like Isabella might come knocking on the door and decide that she's no longer number one in this neighborhood. Personally, that's a fight I'd love to see, but I think she could be trying to prevent that. We'll have to see where this goes because it does open up even more questions. The story itself is starting to make sense, but also at the same time, there's still wide open holes that need to be filled. Very curious if any of my previous theories will hold true, or maybe the next storyline of Isabella or another character will shed some light. We'll find out soon enough, but in the meantime, hopefully you enjoyed, and let me know what you think this Siren Queen might be up to, and what could possibly happen if she was able to restore her soul, or maybe grant herself more power in the process. Have a wonderful night or day, folks, and farewell.